What's wrong with being? What's wrong with being? What's wrong with being confident?
Hey, Karen, we're back again.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I thought it was a dream. Here I am. I woke up and it's you again.
We're back together again.
The art of improvement. Well, how are we going to improve today? Because last you left, you had me on the edge of the seat because you had told us that you had so many failure after failure after failure in your work life.
Yeah, work life.
That you decided, what do I do? What do I do? And I think you had left off when you had finally accepted a job, flying to Cleveland. You had been given $25,000 to finally make a business work. Is
Right.
that where we were?
Yeah, that's where we were.
Okay.
And so it was kind of crazy. I told y'all last time that I got $25,000,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I told y'all that it was on a handshake.
What does that mean?
That means there was no contract. Like he told me in the meeting, I'll give you $25,000.
Yeah.
But when I left, I forgot to ask for the check.
What?
I know.
So wait a second. This is the same person that was living in their car at one point.
Yes.
Living in the ghetto, hearing the gunshots and having the cage on the outside of the apartments just so that people wouldn't
I know.
escape. And then
I forget to ask for the check. So
how did you even get to where you were going?
well, I had a little bit of money, not
Okay.
much, but they told me just there's no contract either. So this is really a handshake deal.
Yeah.
And so I got on a plane. I flew to Michigan to meet him. And when I did that, I went to go meet the general manager of the stone company that was cutting the stone for
Yeah.
Cosentino. And I got there and I called them from the airport and I said, hey, are y'all going to pick me up? And they're like, oh, yeah. I guess they forgot. So they will send someone.
Oh, that's never a good sign when
Yep.
they forget that you're coming.
Yes.
And you owe them $25,000.
Yeah, well, they owe me $25,000.
Right.
And so they pick me up. I go to the office, and I'm like, okay. So they're like, we're going to send someone and take you into Cleveland, and so that you can get set up. We'll introduce you to some Home Depots because I was going to be handling some Home Depot accounts and do their countertop installation for them for silestone and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I said, by the way, the general manager, his name was Tom Wessel at the time. I was like, hey, Tom, Brandon told me that I was supposed to get a check for $25,000 here.
Yeah.
And he laughed at me. And he's like, for what? I was like, yeah, for $25,000. He told me he'd give it to me if I came and set up. He's like, no, we're not giving you $25,000.
What?
And I'm like, well, we should probably call Brandon. And so they called him and he said, oh, no, I told him that we can go ahead and write him a check. Let's make it into, I think they get it into over 5 months. And I said, well, can you make the first month $6,500 like right now?
Because I need to live.
I need something. So
Yeah.
to give you an idea, I had $175 in my bank account.
Yeah.
Is all I had.
That doesn't go very far.
No, so the first night they take me and they drive me into Cleveland, right? They take me and drive me into Cleveland. And the first night we go downtown and we stay at a nice hotel downtown. Of course, they put me up in it, get my own room.
Yeah.
They take you out to eat to a nice restaurant. I'm like, oh, this is great. And the next day they took me to 5 Home Depots and introduced me as this is a new installer. I don't have a truck or tools, but I do have $175 in my account, and now I have a $6,500 check from Bank of America in my hand.
Well, I mean, you have to feel a little bit better about that then.
Yeah, but it was 4th of July weekend,
Oh, no.
okay? And at that time, this was 2002,
Yeah.
the only 2 states that did not have a Bank of America branch in their state was Michigan and Ohio. The only 2 states.
Seriously.
So try cashing a personal check, like a business check
You
written out to
can't.
me for $6,500
No.
when you don't even have a state ID because I have a Texas ID.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So I was like, I tried everything and no one would cash my check. So they introduced me to these Home Depots of this is a new installer. And they're like, okay, where do you want to drop off at? And I'm like, I've never been here in my life. So I look at the map and I put my finger in the middle. I was like, how about here? Because this is kind of the middle. And so they said, okay, perfect. We find an extended stay hotel there. So we go over there and I'm in the middle of the parking lot and I have $175, which is not enough for me to do much of anything.
No.
And that
No.
was for my wife at the time back in Nashville because she was still having to live and that's all we had. So I was like, gosh, what am I going to do now? My bank was USAA here in San Antonio. So I called them up and like you can mail us a check, right? It's
Oh,
not, we didn't have
yeah.
mobile deposit back then.
Right.
So I was in the parking lot, no place to stay. And so remember my friend that helped me after the Marine Corps, Rich Proshold?
Yes.
I called him.
Wait a second. If I recall correctly, this is the guy that says, I'll help you, I'll mentor you, I'll let you stay here, but never ask me
That's right.
for money.
I called that dude.
Okay.
I called him and I was
Breaking the
like,
law.
man, I'm in a bad spot. I took this thing and like, I'm here. I'm literally in a parking lot with my sea bag, right? Like, I need a place to live tonight and stay. And I have the $6,500 check. If you Western Union me $500, I'm going to overnight this check to USAA. And as soon as it clears, because they're not going to clear it right away,
Right.
then I'll send you back the money. And I'll even send you a check right now, and you can hold it. And when I tell you it clears, you can cash it. So he was nice enough to actually do
Oh my
that.
gosh.
And
That's
so
horrible.
I lived at the extended stay. And so that's where I set up. The fab shop that was cutting the stone for me, they would get the Home Depot orders, and they would fax me my orders of who I needed to go, what customers I had to go measure so we can install the countertops. So it was kind of weird because I didn't have a fax machine. I'm staying at a hotel.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to receive a fax?
So suddenly the person at the front desk was your secretary.
Yes, it was really funny. I lived here for a long time. So I went to the front and I said, do you have a fax machine? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. So they gave me the number. I was like, they're going to be sending me stuff, right? So every morning they would come by with a stack and shove them under my door.
Oh my gosh.
And so they were getting all my faxes for me. And so I started measuring. So I needed a rental car. So I go get a rental car because I have these orders. I call them, have my cell phone, call them, set up a time, go measure them. One problem, I've never measured for a countertop before in my life. Remember, I was an installer,
Yes.
okay, but I was never a measure guy.
So, I mean, you have to please just tell me the story. I mean, what's the difference? How are they so different?
Well, I had thought, they had asked me back at Costantino with Brandon if I'd ever measured a job. I was like, no, but I install, and so I always know what the measure guys, what their mistakes are. So I'm sure since I've been an installer, I can measure. I remember that first job I put in. It was already measured. Obviously, they cut it to what I said. I must have checked that thing like 100 times at that house. They're like, what is this guy doing? And I was like, I hope it fits right. Sure. And it fit. And so I realized that I knew how to measure since I was an installer. So I start measuring jobs. I start talking to the Home Depots. They start selling jobs, and a lot of jobs are selling. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm just operating out of my hotel room. Well, all these jobs go into production. Well, they're coming out soon. So I need to start installing. So I order a bunch of tools, have it shipped to the hotel. But now I need a truck. Like, what do you do about a truck? I mean, I had $6,500. That's not going to give me a truck, really.
No.
And I already spent some of that money. So there is a place, this is no joke, I rented a truck from Rent a Wreck.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me that you have pictures that you can show someday. If I'm lucky, you'll show me.
I rented a truck from Rent a Wreck, and I rented this thing for probably about 5 or 6 months. And I would take it in for oil changes because they're like, okay, you can use it as long as you want. Just bring it in for when the oils needed to be changed. So I would do that. And so they would ship me the stone, and I would install it. And I needed a helper because I can't pick up the stuff up by myself. So I was like, okay, where do I go? I don't know anyone in town. So I called area temps. Okay. Their name on the building was called Area Temps. Okay. Oh, they're going to hate me for this. They're not in San Antonio, though. But I called them Area Pimps, right? I call them Area Pimps because you go there if you need help and they pimp you out someone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. They charge you $20 an hour and they pay the poor guy $10 an hour and they keep the extra 10, right? So,
and everybody said they had experience,
yeah,
right?
of course. So I needed someone that can pick up heavy stuff. So I got this big old guy named Randy. He was huge. He was a big guy. He ended up working for me the entire time I was in Cleveland.
Awesome.
So I ended up hiring him. And so that's how I started installing over there. I was taking these Home Depot orders. I remember sitting in the hotel room. I was getting all these orders and setting up all these appointments. I'd go measure. And I would talk to my parents on a regular basis, right? And I remember my dad asked me, One time he's like, "What are you doing today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just working. I'm doing some measures and stuff." A couple of days had gone by. I talked to him again. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm working." He's like, "You work every day?" I'm like, "Don't you?" Like, what? What do you think I don't work?
So they weren't buying the story.
No, I
Yeah.
had 6 companies already. Like,
Yeah.
why would they buy the story, right? So Cleveland turned out to be really good. It was a good time for me, and so I went from 5 Home Depots. Within 12 months, I had all 38 Home Depots
Oh my
in the
gosh.
Cleveland metro area, like all the way from Sandusky over to Youngstown down to Canton. I had every Home Depot, and I hired more people. I got an office, and we grew it all the way to having that many Home Depots. It was actually, we were just doing measuring and installation.
Okay, but what the heck are you doing here then?
Okay, so yeah, I know.
Right.
Exactly. If it went so good, why are you here? So I had done that for about 4.5 years. And I actually set up with Cosentino to have another contract in South Florida. So my thought was, I was like, I'm going to have a company in South Florida, down in Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to have one in Cleveland. This would be perfect, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to go down there for the winter, and then I'm going to come up here for the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had it all planned out. Well, that's when the economy started going bad. So everyone was scrambling. Cosentino ended up selling their fab shop in Michigan, which was my connection to the Home Depots.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
when they sold it, the new owners didn't like me.
Oh.
They weren't keeping me around. So I was lucky that I had put a deal together already for South Florida. And it so happened to work out. And South Florida at the time was still moving. They were still doing good. So they had a new fab shop going online in Miami. And so I was like, so I called up Cosentino and they're like, just move on down there. So I packed everything up
Amazing.
and I headed down to South Florida. And I had 9 Home Depots. No, I'm sorry. I think it was 8 or 9 Home Depots. And I had all of Miami and the 2 in Key West. 1 in Key West and 1 in Island Marotta, both in the Keys. So I got there and back to installing. Randy didn't come with me, but I went by myself, right?
Mhm.
But I started back up, rented a house, same thing. Other than I did not need the truck from Rent-A-Wreck. I had a truck by this time. So that was
You
nice.
were moving on up.
Yeah, so I didn't need the truck from Rent-A-Wreck at the time. So I go to South Florida and we start, but a few months afterwards, the shop had just opened. They came to me and said they might be closing the shop. The economy's getting bad. I'm like, oh man, that's not good.
How is this happening?
So then they're like, okay, no, we're going to keep it open. And then they're going to shut it. And then they're going to keep it open. Well, they kept it open for a year. And then I got a call from Cosentino saying that they're going to shut it down. And this was a pretty good gig because I was in Key West. So I had Miami and I had Key West. So every 2 weeks, I was in Key West, like staying the night doing installs on the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty good gig, and Key West was a lot of fun. So they said, we're going to help you out. Why don't you fly over here? We're going to hire you, and you're going to come work in the corporate office while the country goes through this recession. And we'll just make sure you're protected, and you can come work with us. You've been working with us for a long time. I was like, oh, that's a good deal. So
Yeah.
that was in Houston. So I remember talking to one of the other vice presidents. He's like, I want you to come down. We worked on the salary. He's like, I want you to get movers ready. And so you send me the invoices so that we can get those paid and get everyone moved. I was like, okay, not a problem. But I have to do some installs in Key West, and they're expecting them. So can I just fly out in 2 weeks? He's like, yeah, sure, not a problem. That wasn't a very smart move.
Why?
I should have got on a plane right away. By the time the 2 weeks came, the day before I was leaving, they called me and they said, Giovanni, I'm sorry, but the CEO put a hiring freeze on the company this morning. And I was like, yeah, but we already have our deal. And they're like, no, it doesn't matter. I was like, I'm flying in tomorrow. And they're like, well, there's no point of you coming. I was like, what? I'm coming. I have the plane ticket. And so I fly into Houston. They're like, you can come, but it doesn't change anything. And I thought maybe I could change something. Nope. Couldn't change anything.
Did you go in? Did you talk to them?
Yeah, I went and talked to them. But they told me the same thing they told me on the phone.
Get the heck out of here.
So now, like, is anyone paying for my moving still?
Oh, no.
And where am I going to move to?
That's a raw deal.
That was I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was pretty ticked off.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I go down to San Antonio and they said, call this company. It was a company that did countertop installations and they need someone to help measure. And I was like, Okay, so I talked to them, and they're like, we'll hire you as a subcontractor. Fly back to Fort Lauderdale. Guess I'm paying for my own moving now.
Yeah.
So I moved to San Antonio, and I said, I'm done with Home Depots. I'm done with Silestone. I'm done with all this. I'm just going to, I'll do this contract work. And that was in 2008, the end of 2000, like October 2008 is when I moved back to San Antonio. And I just did this subcontract work just to try to get by. And so I came, started doing that, and I said, I'm done with construction. I'm tired of it. But then, of course, that's what I do. So,
Right.
and January
Yeah,
1st, I was
yeah.
like, okay, I want to make a run for it again. And I'm only going to do kitchen and bathrooms. And I'm going to start my own company. And I'm not doing any Home Depot work. And I'm not selling this other products. I'm selling kitchen and bathrooms. And in January 1st of 2009, I started what was called Kitchen Design Studio. Excuse me. So that's how Kitchen Design Studio got started. What was interesting is I was still working for that other company as a subcontractor. I worked for them all the way up until July of 2009. So I was using them since I was a subcontractor measuring. I would just do their measures for them. And the rest of the time I was out hustling trying to get business. So I was out hustling trying to get business, and I started getting pretty busy. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. I go into the general manager's office. I remember his name. I won't say his name here.
Good. Thank you.
And I told him, well, I have my own company I've been working on, and it's getting busy, and I'm gonna go ahead and quit. I'm gonna give my 2 weeks. He said, Giovanni, he's like, that's a bad move. I want to do that. He's like, when I was younger, I had a shop, and with taxes and employees and payroll and everything, just can't do it. You just need to stay here and work here. Because you're not going to be able to make it on your own like that. I tried it and it didn't work. And so this would be the best spot for you. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to do it. I didn't like working at this place.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was miserable. So I quit. The 4th of July weekend, now in 2009 is when I quit. And I was doing kitchen design studio. Didn't really know much of what I was doing. Just figuring it out because I'd done countertops and stuff. So we were going through building business, and about 2 years into it, I was starting to get busier and busier. And that's when I had actually ran across Jack Riccardi.
Oh, yes.
I did his kitchen for him. And he's like, why don't you get on the radio? And so I ended up getting on the radio, doing commercials. So I had built up kind of a referral business. And then when I had gotten a little bit of business, I found like make a run for the radio. So I was like, I saved up 4 months worth of airtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it'll take me about 4 months to get my first customer. That wasn't good.
Yeah, I know. It's bad.
It took me 7 months.
Well, yeah, it's bad.
And so my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, has told me, just don't stop. And I'm like, I don't have any more money. This is like draining me. And she gave me my credit card, and she said, put it on my credit card.
Oh my gosh.
And I was at the point, like, I was looking for a job.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I think I just need to get a job. And she's like, no, just put it on my credit card. It'll work. And I put it on her credit card and kept up the advertising. And then in month 7, it blew up. Like month 7, I sold $100,000.
Incredible.
And it was kind of crazy. So month 7, I sold $100,000, and I was like, the radio works. It only took me 7 months, and I think at the time it was $12,000 into it,
Right.
which I didn't have to get it to go.
But what do you attribute? I mean, your wife pushed you. Thank God for
Right.
her. But what do you think made her say, go for it, go all the way, keep doing it? Because, I mean, obviously she must have known your past, and you never gave up before.
She didn't know my past.
Oh, gosh.
In the
poor
part
thing.
I know, in the part that she did know, like my wife came from she had a pretty good upbringing, and her dad was not an entrepreneur. He had a job, and it was very stable, very traditional as far as he worked. He had a good job. He provided. And me, I had 6 failed companies, right? And then my 7th one was like, okay, well, it worked, but then I had to get moved around. And so, yeah, she was naive. So for me, I was like, I don't want to put on your credit card because I know what's going to happen. Like the scars of being an entrepreneur go so deep,
Yeah.
right? And that scar is always there. So I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I suck at this. And she's like, no, you can do it. I'm like, you obviously do not know. And so she was naive. She didn't know. And so we went through that. So I put it on the credit card. It took off. And that's when we had like a 5 to 6 month backlog
Nice.
of customers. If you called me up on the radio, you had to wait 5 months for me.
Wow.
And from that point, I had the bright idea to open up a cabinet shop. And then all the money that we had saved from doing good, I put into that. And when we were in the middle of setting up the showroom, at one point I was 2 weeks away from closing the doors. So that one was a very close call to, yeah, I'll still do remodeling, but I'm not going to have a showroom.
Mm-hmm.
So going into the showroom, I bit off more than I can chew. And back to the credit cards. I used my wife's credit cards and ran them up $75,000. Don't tell Dave Ramsey. He would kill me.
Right.
But honestly, like, I ran up $75,000 in credit card debt to keep the showroom open,
Mm-hmm.
to try to make it work. And then it took off, and I paid them all off. And so now we had a showroom. We had more employees. Things started really growing. We obviously have ups and downs, but I mean, for the most part, it's been a really good ride. From that point, my brother, in talking to him, was doing work with the window company.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, we decided to why don't we do something together? And we started Precision Windows. And Precision Windows has done very well since then.
Yes.
We basically took our marketing strategy, what we've done over the years from Kitchen Designs, plugged it into Precision Windows, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
From that, I'm like glutton for punishment. I'm like, I go buy slabs in Brazil because I'm a moron. Because I'm gonna sell slabs. I'm not gonna cut. I'm not gonna fabricate. But I'm gonna sell slabs. And so I went and bought a couple $100,000 worth of slabs from Brazil.
That's pretty cool.
And,
that's nice.
Yeah, and then I found out that I couldn't sell them. No one wanted to buy them other than my customers. So then I had this bright idea of I got to adjust, and we started a fabrication facility, which is now Rock Tops,
Mm-hmm.
and which has been a great success. And it's Rock Tops is blowing the doors off with sales and with what it does right now. So in saying all that, once Kitchen Design got traction, and once I had used my wife's credit card to pay for advertising and to get started,
Gone through the school of hard knocks.
and then
Mhm.
putting I do not recommend anyone put $75,000 on credit cards to start a business, but I did, and it worked. And starting other companies, and that brings us to where we're at now, and 27 employees later.
Any regrets? Anything learned that you can tell others that want to start their own business?
I think my biggest regret now is my kids are small. So my kids right now one's turning 4 this week and one's 6. My biggest regret is they never saw me struggle. So they never really understand that. They kind of understand, like, I have a really nice kitchen, right? I mean, that's not normal with what we have in our kitchen. And they've never seen the struggle. So they grow up just knowing that I'm successful and not understanding what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the one thing that I wish that they would see. But on the other hand, you don't want them to see that because it was really bad at times.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, I don't have any regrets. I mean, it's been a crazy ride, and it's
Continuing.
it's continuing, and it's always starting something new and different, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, I think that the pride in your work shows, and obviously that's how your customers keep coming back and coming back.
Yeah, I mean, we have really good customers. They've been, we've always had good customers. They've always trusted us a lot to be able to do amazing kitchen and bathrooms for them. So that brings us to the end. Now you know my story.
And you're sticking to it.
You know the good and the bad, and there was a lot of bad in there, but it got us to where we're at. And
A long journey.
if you're looking for a kitchen or bathroom, give me a call. I'll help you out. Thank you for watching our show, and thank you for listening to The Art of Improvement.